Oh, yo, yo, yo. What's going on, Matt?
Happy Monday. Happy Christmas week. Christmas is Friday. I love when Christmas is like Thursday, Friday, because it's basically the whole week off.
Exactly.
We got 2 weeks off.
Matt, you always talk about the silly season, firmly in the silly season trading.
Yes.
But we're going to get to that in a second here. First, let's talk about first of all, my face still freaking out. It's not as bad as it looks. The camera, not only does it add 10 pounds, but if you don't have a makeup artist, right, you look perfect, by the way. I don't know who's doing your lighting and makeup, but for sure better than mine.
Plus like the 18-hour shadow, it's just kind of working. Because I didn't shave early like I usually do yesterday, so I didn't bother this morning.
Matt, let me share. And let's start off on a good note here, Matt.
Yes.
I love 70s sports, right?
I do too, as you could tell.
That is a real picture, folks. You're pitching fine, but the umpire said you got to put out the cigarette. Guys smoking like in the dugout, drinking in the dugout. I had a trading friend in the floor that ran the clubhouse, the visitors clubhouse for the White Sox. And his father did it before him. In Chicago, there's generational jobs in Chicago.
My son was actually he's a big White Sox fan. He said now, Southside Chicago. And we went to the local, sportswear store yesterday. And he was looking for a White Sox fitted cap. Couldn't find one here in Bend, Oregon, but.
I imagine that's an impossibility.
He ended up with the Mariners.
What a great tradition of debauchery that baseball has. I mean, especially back in the day. You imagine taking a train to a city. You're partying on the train for sure, right? And then you're sitting in a city for 4 or 5 days. I mean, they used to play 5 and 6 game sets, right? Way back.
Well, they still play, 3 or 4 every time. So.
If you spend a couple of weeks, like you're not going to. It's
amazing. There was another. They had another picture this weekend of two, which I always find it funny. It was a picture when both were playing, Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle. I might have sent you that one, but that one also was outstanding because, Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle were two of the biggest drunks ever, and I'm sure, Mickey was playing for the Yanks and Billy Martin played for the Tigers and then went on to coach for them, right? He was a manager. But I bet you that they were either talking about what they did last night, either in New York or Detroit. I don't remember which jerseys.
Oh, yeah. Well, on the field, right?
Yeah, they were on the field. It was pregame. And the picture was, they both looked haggard. And this was like
Hey, dude, do you know where my wallet is?
Right.
What was the last bar that we went in? Yeah. I left my coat.
What was that blonde you were talking to? What was her name?
Oh, and speaking of blondes, this one that you shared, Mike or Matt in the network, especially apropos for Christmas week, I'm trying to lead a normal and productive life. Bitcoin fully al fuego. This tweet that I wanted to bring up if I can. So apropos for today's environment, right? Alan Watts, if you don't know Alan Watts, he's long since passed, but an incredible mind. About so many things, cerebral, right? And here just talking about you can't effectively function when fear is driving the cart. And that's the problem I have with so much of today's content is it's fear and shame based, Matt. It's the lowest 2 levels of vibration available to humans. A great book called The Power versus Force. I highly recommend it. And we really need as a society to stop dwelling in fear and shame, man. That is what drives all of the dysfunction as far as I can see it. But thank you for sharing this because it was a great reminder.
Yep, I agree. You gotta keep your wits about you and kind of push aside some of the noise that is being pushed. And this one I liked also. This was just another Twitter find where I'm surprised cities haven't done this yet, where they do a jersey swap between, especially in Detroit, where the same ownership in both the Tigers and the Red Wings, right? The Little Caesars family, the Illiches, have owned both franchises for quite a while. And both have sucked for quite a while. But
wait a second, though, Matt. Wait a second. You cannot complain because you had a 2-decade run with the Red Wings, where they
28 years in a row in the Stanley Cups. But yeah, 28-year run there. But
all right, sorry, I shortchanged you.
But it ended, Bob, again about 7 to 10 years ago. I can't even remember the last time the Red Wings were in the playoffs. And then the Tigers, well, they just suck. They just suck. They've sucked probably since 2006, so it's been about 15 years. But the idea of the Tigers wearing the Red Wings and the Red Wings wearing the Tigers, I would buy those jerseys just because that's cool. It's cool to me.
All right, man, I wanted to get down to this one, and we'll talk some real market stuff. Novogratz saying that, again, this guy cannot help himself but to berate the administration, the current administration, and fawn over the incoming. I start to get the picture, since he is a Goldman veteran. And one of the great tweets I saw this week was from Charles Payne from CNBC. And he said that the Biden administration is going to have the most diverse Goldman cabinet of all time.
Yeah, but what's interesting about Novogratz is he did not walk away from Goldman with golden handcuffs. Matter of fact, if you heard the interview he did with Tim Ferriss, he doesn't talk about what happened, but he didn't leave on his own accord. So I don't know if you know that. So that being said, yeah, that being said, and he talks about it, but he doesn't tell you what exactly happened. He just basically, when he was fired from Goldman Sachs, he was basically at the bottom of the barrel and had to start all over again. And, kind of found his way, got a couple lucky years, and the money started flowing again. But, I think that's why he still has the arrogance of a Goldman Sachs banker, but he didn't leave with, the golden handcuffs. He didn't leave with a bag of shares and all the watches and everything that go along with a successful career. So, I give a guy always credit for scrapping his way back, because this business can be nasty like that. And, you turn somebody, the wrong way in that banking business, you can really F yourself pretty good. But, to that point, Mike Novogratz, come on Market Vitals. Let's talk transparently and openly about Bitcoin and altcoins, because again, to me, this is kind of a sign of, again, you're hammering people that haven't been long Bitcoin, or it's kind of a braggadocious statement that he puts out like this once and again. And to your point, what are you rooting for? Are you rooting for, the US dollar demise because that favors your position? Yeah, that's what he's doing. So again, you got to.
Yeah, and Matt, the other thing too is, I listened to a talk by Jordan Peterson talking about social policies and how complex social structures are, and when you try to intervene, you ultimately can't predict what you're going to do or how it's going to result. My only point bringing that up is an incredibly complex system here with US dollar as the reserve currency. It's already getting chipped away for sure. I mean, people are finding other ways to transfer wealth and equity other than the US dollar. My whole point on and my response to him was the Chinese yuan. Like, it's at some point, isn't everybody's metric like, can we trust the Chinese to be fair and level players as regards to currency? For 2 decades, we labeled them as currency manipulators. So I don't see how easily, I don't care what the policies are, that all of a sudden the yuan becomes a reserve currency, given that backdrop of trust. I mean, trust is an important part, by the way, which is why the whole crypto thing happened in the first place, right? It's all based on getting trust out of centralized hands, decentralizing that trust factor. We shall see where the chips will lay, but I agree. I'm not sure I fully agree with what he's saying here. I wanted to jump here, Matt, and that was my response to him. Again, the CCP trust. The other thing too for Novogratz, just wide open arms embracing the Biden administration, which seems to be friendly and dovish to Iran. And Mike knows full well the brutality of the regime
Right.
a big wrestling and wrestling fan, and one of their great wrestlers in Iran. They killed him because of some sort of social statement on unrest. I mean, they're talk about ruling with an iron fist. And again, Matt, we live in the age of ambiguity, right? There are so many moving parts. It's so hard to find truth. But for sure, I have a hard time when I see him bashing Trump and embracing Biden. But then you see these two policies against a known adversary of the free world. I don't know. Interesting. The other thing I wanted to point out and bring up here quickly was this little march in Montreal, Canada. And then there was another one of a hockey player playing pond hockey in Calgary. Calgary.
Yes.
Right. Calgary. Proud hockey town.
Proud.
And they were going to tase him for being outside playing hockey on the pond. I'm just telling you, again, the ambiguity of this virus, but people from all over the world are sick of the arbitrary
and
lockdowning.
again, this stuff you won't find this on mainstream, right? It's being reported only by the man on the streets, and we know that is any conflict with whatever they believe on Twitter, the censors, right? They won't show the stuff that they don't want to show. They don't want to show, what's going on with the election battle still, whether it's true, not true. They just don't, they just choose not to discuss it. It's almost like the Supreme Court. And we talked about this last week. The Supreme Court not hearing this case is one of the worst things that this country could see, because listen, if you think that there's no validity, then come out and say, as a Supreme Court, these charges, these accusations, we don't find any validity, and that would stop it. But by the Supreme Court not hearing this case really says we're open to continuation of this ambiguity and possibly really civil riots and wars inside our own streets. I mean, this is what they are opening up the country to by not hearing that case. And again, I have no idea how they would. All you have to do is say, there's no substance in what, they could say that, and that would quiet the masses, right? And right now you've got 75 million people who have voted for Trump, who just want to hear, was it fair or was it not? That's all they want to hear. And that's where I think SCOTUS is failing us right now, is they're not willing to hear the case at this point, which is unfortunate, because I think that will lead to, further downdrafts over the future by not.
All right, Matt, a major meltdown in the semi-major, like what was it, 2%?
Yeah. So
at its worst. Why don't you share, and let's talk a little.
Let's talk a little price discovery here, because I think this is important. Kind of on the subject you were talking about, dollar. Again, having had a huge rally overnight, and it has since been sold off, which means, to me, again, the Fed's invisible hand is back in there.
We were talking about that back in the day when I was in the currencies. They called up, and I wonder if we could get a currency expert or somebody could tell us here online when the Fed intervenes in currency markets, is it as transparent as it once was? That's my question. I mean, I'd be on the phone with Chase, and he'd say, "Hey, I just got I got a call from the Fed. The Fed's in," and markets would react from the intervention. They actually sometimes didn't even have to place a trade. They just do call-ups and check on the market, and it would spook the market.
Yeah. So the dollar today had a rally. We actually hit, and I want to talk about that, and then I'll jump to Goldman Sachs here. But I don't have a live feed on TradingView for the dollar. But I'm going to look here real quick on my other screen, and 91 was hit, and it's pulled all the way back here again. It hit 91.01, which was a huge rally. Now we're all the way back to lows, trading 90.20, but still green for the day, right, on the dollar. So we had this gap up Sunday on the dollar that continued all the way to 91, and then we have sold off well before. We basically peaked in the European Open. So it's interesting, but here's the one I want to talk about. Goldman Sachs, right? Some of these bankers today are having great days because of the stimulus that was passed again. So, and with that, the banks are now allowed again to buy back stock, as will airlines, right? Airlines got 15 billion. The pork that was in this plan again is just out of control. Like, I don't know if you look through some of the things that they're spending money on, but 15 billion more for airlines. And again, they don't have to use it to unfurlough their non-paid employees. So I expect they're not going to. They might bring back and open up some more, ghost flights over these next 3 months, but these shutdowns aren't going away. And these guys aren't going to just start flying and losing more money when they're bleeding. I think I read the composite airlines are losing like 180 million a day just operating today. So this isn't going well, and it's not going to reopen anytime in that first quarter. Worldwide for sure. I mean, it's just not, there's not going to be people traveling all of a sudden. So that concerns me. And the pork in this, and again, is this a sell the news? Who knows? But the thing that's interesting is Goldman just gaps up here. And this is, again, we're looking at a daily chart. So this is the open. We opened at 250 and we ran all the way up to an all-time high again, 258. So we took out that January high in Goldman. But here's what's interesting. We had talked about this. When Goldman breaks out of this bracket, you've got a $33 move, $35 move, and pretty much we nailed it. There it is, right to the 260 level, which is exactly the spread between the bracket we've been in. So now you've got this bracket, which is very bullish below you, and you've got a very bullish, but probably much overextended move. And most of the banks like JP Morgan, et cetera. Matter of fact, if you, Bob, if you look at, I'm going to do this real quick. Let me bring up just kind of the sectors today, because it's bloody except for banks, and it's turned a little bit. By the way, before we started the show, all this up in here, the retail was red, now it's going green. Microsoft was red, now it's green. Apple's looks like it's going to go green. It was only green on this entire sector analysis down in the banking sector. They're up big again. JP's up 4.3, Bank of America's 3, Citigroup's up 3.5. Even Wells, the junk of the junk is up 1.2. So, and then Goldman's up large. Goldman's up 6.8. Morgan Stanley 5.3. And again, the major large banks or investment banks are just killing it, because of this deal getting done again. Again, assuming business is back to normal is the response that we're getting here off the top. I also want to talk about real quick the stay-at-home stocks. They all got bumps this morning, and I want to show them just from a short-term nature, just so you can see kind of how they behaved. Zoom gapped up to the high 427 and sold off immediately. Again, not a very bullish thing. Matter of fact, if you were awake here, you probably could have made some money just selling some of these stocks right off these opens, because I don't think this is necessarily a good thing, having extended stay-at-home orders again. But I think these stock, and also over the weekend, Zoom had some bad news. So it absorbed the bad news and actually gapped, which again, strange to me. The SPACs, the quantum space is another one of these. This stock is boggling me. Just gaps up slightly and then just runs all day to a new high. I think that's a new high again on this SPAC, which is QS. And yeah, it's ticking that area we ticked here before. So right around the same area, maybe a little higher this morning. And then a couple of other stay-at-home stocks, Bob. Fiverr, which is a stock that a company that helps people kind of gig jobs, find creative jobs, or let me make your logos or whatever. Let me make your website, and people post their jobs on this site. Again, all-time high this morning. This thing is so far out of value. You can't even. I don't know how you can even put costs on these things. Worth 7.8 billion today. And again, this is up, I think it's the end of the year, and stay-at-home stocks, everybody just chased them this morning. CHWY is another one I wanted to look at, which is the, stay-at-home, get your dog food delivered. Come on.
By the way, CHWY now selling CBD dog treats.
Well, $44 billion market cap, Bob. 44 billion.
That's a lot of dog bones.
So that one's off. That one's to the roof. Bitcoin, all assets are one. And I want to talk about this because when the dollar was up, everything was getting crushed this morning. Everything except for those few stocks I just mentioned, the stay at home. Bitcoin to me looks a little tired. It looks a little ragged. And again, this 21.8 or so held. If it doesn't hold the next time, watch out below. We're right pretty much chopping around in that balance zone here over the last 2 weeks, which is right here at 23,000-ish. So we're right there, 22.8 as we speak, as we're ticking down 3%. It had been lower. It had dropped down to 21, 22. And again, if this level goes, there's not a lot of strong hands below.
Yeah, you know what, Matt, that one worries me. I did step out and buy a little, and I was fully anticipating my Beaksy rocket to explode.
Well, let me show you one more before.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I've got just to show there's always a bull market. Lumber continues to astound, as do the beans. So I just want to talk about this. I thought last week
I had the beans queued up also because of the grains. It's by far the best looking chart.
I mean, we got a 1 day sell-off. We gapped down on this day where we made that new high, and then continued down the next day, but it recovered immediately. So you didn't even have you had 1 day sell-off, not even. And it resumed right back up. And the interesting thing here is we're testing the highs again. And these are all, like, when I look at these moves, the first one was insane. I can't believe the second one, Bobby. I mean, I've never seen a commodity behave like this when the fundamentals don't make much sense to me either. I really don't understand it, and that's why I don't trade it. But I wanted to talk about it because it's just it's boggling to me, kind of these moves. And then gold, just because everybody's a gold bug. And I want to point it out that, when markets sell off, which we saw today, and we keep talking about this, all assets are one. And if you don't think this, look at Bitcoin and look at gold. Nothing's happened here. These are, these safety hedges that are out there are not doing much for you. So let me just pull that up on this side. And again, for all the negativity, gold couldn't hold this high that it made on Sunday either. So it pumped up there 1912 after the acknowledgement of the fiscal of the policies that were the money that was given to people. But again, it's battling right here again. It looks to me like it's awfully heavy. I've said that when it was hitting 1900 last week. Had a little spike over it, took out anybody short that was left, and now they're
not only did it take out the shorts, but all the eager beavers, when they see that channel being taken out, jump in expecting continuation, and then talk about a weak hand falling on its sword.
Correct.
Because there was no follow through, and it's not a mistake, by the way. I did the same thing in Bitcoin. I thought that we got a sideways action here. I think we're going higher, so I bought some. I am paying particular attention to that low end, though, that you just spoke of, because I got no problem taking a loss and saying, you know what, I got orders in much lower, and I actually, this is the thing about trading. You hope for the demise of others sometimes. I'm out of my longs. I hope all the rest of the longs get crushed. So I could get refilled at a better price. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. All right, man, I just wanted to jump to that bean chart.
Yes.
Because look at that, it's like the lumber. It's parabolic. Like, where do you sell this thing comfortably? For me, not all the way on this is the weekly, 13 and a quarter.
Yeah.
Beans in the teens, folks, before I'd be willing to sell it. And if you are long these things and you're not taking profit at that type of an extension, you're out of your mind. Right. Anyway, that's and the corn and the wheat. It's just amazing to look at the charts. Corn actually has the potential, but it surely hasn't acted like it wants to, right? And wheat, the same thing. Look at those two different, congestions, can't hold momentum compared to the beans, which looks like a rocket ship, a moon ship.
Here's what's interesting, just on, and again, these three, the wheat, corn, and beans they're all bullish, clearly, but the wheat has been a better trader, right? It's kind of been in a range, as you can see in your chart here. It's been chopping around kind of a 30-40 cent range, kind of, 570 to 620, right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Beans have just been exploding. Like you said, you can't short them. And if you're long, you better be selling them, because they just keep stretching, stretch Armstrong, and they're just like, whoa, just.
Well, Matt, I hashtag mind the mo, right? So I love the potentiality that momentum-driven market does when you do that. Just mind the momentum. If you get a close on the weekly out of that momentum, so far we've gone from $9 and still haven't done it yet.
Yeah, well, actually 8.25.
Yeah, well, I mean, on this last momentum run.
Right.
Anyway, it is the holiday season, Matt. I got to get to my Christmas shopping. If I do it today, I'll be early, Matt. That's all I got to say. A general modus operandi is Christmas Eve, 5 o'clock at the Ace Hardware. Ace is the place with the helpful hardware man. You can get everything at Ace. Ace is not a sponsor, though it should be, because every year I convince a bunch of other toxically masculine men that it's not too late Christmas shopping.
How do you define a toxically masculine man?
You know what, Matt? The definitions in today's age are very ambiguous. The age of ambiguity. Anyway, that's what I'm telling you. You got time, right? Like, I don't think Ace closes on Christmas Eve till 7 or 8. All right. Really? So, you get there at 5. And to be honest, the best modus operandi is to go to a nice lounge for some high-end cocktails from like 3 to 5. Then you go to Ace, take care of everybody. They got houseware, sporting goods, garden center, they got everything at Ace. Tools. Who could you not buy from? Like, you tell me right now, you go into an Ace Hardware and tell me what person you couldn't shop for in that joint.
Maybe, maybe your aunt who is into crocheting hats or beanies or something. Do they have yarn?
No, they don't have yarn. But they have garden supplies. And I'm sure if she's into crocheting, she likes flowers. Or some way to grow them better. They do have sometimes very nice flower hanging baskets. You're right. Ace is the place. That's all I'm saying. All right, man, listen, not only Christmas week, but today, shortest day of the year as the sun penetrates our.
No, actually, the shortest day of the year was last week, but it is the shortest.
It's the solstice.
It's the shortest. It's the earliest sunset today. All right. The earliest sunrise is coming January 6th. So that the crossover in the longest day was actually.
But isn't it the solstice? It's the lowest amount of light.
Yeah,
the
yes
days
and no.
start getting longer.
It actually happened about a week ago because.
No way.
Because
I'm calling bullshit.
No, listen to me. It's simple. The sunset is the earliest all year tonight. So that's what today is, the sunset, right? Let's call it 4:20. It sets here on the 45th parallel. It is right around 4:20 right now. The morning sunrise will get later until January 6th. All right. Whereas the sunset will get later also beginning today.
I'm talking about total light.
Yes, that happened last week. I
got to go to the tape, and we're going to confirm this on a future segment.
Okay.
Anyway,
I just learned it last week. It was new to me too.
So are the days getting longer now since they were
tomorrow they get long. Tomorrow they get longer in the afternoon, but they still are getting shorter.
Yeah, I'm talking about the total amount of light, the total hours of light between sunrise and sunset.
Yes, as of last week, we are getting longer.
Listen, we need to call in an expert. I'm calling bullshit on the don't that it's today. With money, against money, let's open up the windows and get an early call. All right, Matt, listen, you have a great day. I'm going to go ski in the soup, and hopefully we get John on tomorrow and talk about all the holiday action available.
I mean, the big holiday game for me, of course, is, Michigan basketball. So they're playing on Christmas Day.
Wolverines, Muck, Michigan.
Basketball school. Basketball school. Formerly pre-med and pre-law. We've won as many national championships playing basketball in my life as we have football. So one.
Roger that.
But we've been to the final like 4 or 5 times, 5, 6 in my life. So.
All right, Matt. Thank you. Please share the video far and wide. Like Chicago voting early and often, and get your dead relatives to view the content, and we will count that as productive distribution of marketvitals.io. Join the community of traders looking for accountability amongst each other, especially around risk and reward. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll see you tomorrow.
No regrets. We'll see you here.
Right. We're going to have Mike on. Mike I can't imagine he wouldn't be open to a vibrant floor type discussion about the merits of all of our opinions and stances.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
In this age of ambiguity.
In this age of ambiguity, Bobby, we'll be back here tomorrow, mid-morning. See you then live.
Midnight, depending on where you are.
Depending on where you are.
All right, pal. Take it easy.
Peace.